It's taken me a few tries, but I think I have finally figured out the best way for me to store my threads. Let me show you what I mean, and you can let me know if you agree with me.
So this is how I store my embroidery threads and flosses and basically anything that I'm going to stitch with. Not necessarily anything that I will be putting on the fabric because I've got some fibers elsewhere, but this set of drawers, I converted things from having them in those little cases where they were wrapped around the bobbin cards, and then shoved into little cases, which was great, except they had a lid on them. And for me, if there's a lid on them, I don't look at it. I forget what I've got in there. So this works a little bit better the way my mind works. Now, these storage containers aren't new to me because I've been using them for a long time for my paint and ink supplies. They fit absolutely perfectly on here on my bookshelves, and they come in 3 sizes. They've got the big deep tubs, which the tubs do not stack on top of each other, but these smaller ones do stack. So these are the same width as the tub, and these are a little bit less wide. In the past, I used to use a lot of these stacking trays as well, but they don't work as well for flosses. I use those in my drawers. I also use clear containers for, these are like smaller round balls, of fibers, but I am going to be switching them over. I discovered that one of these actually fits in one of these. So let me pull these out and show you what's on them. So it used to be that I kept all my fibers right here. I kept my embroidery flosses in that little container with lids that I couldn't see them in because I wasn't doing that much embroidery. And I kept my balls of yarns and fibers that I would usually grab at the thrift store because I wasn't buying that much except for sari silk. And I kept it over here, and then some wool roving, which it's not the best places for the wool roving, but for right now, that's what I have the room for. And then I outgrew it because I just kept, falling in love with fibers, and that's why I switched over to the other containers. So this is kind of a hodgepodge. This is the 3rd shelf. This isn't necessarily threads, but I am moving more of my fibers, the larger rolls here, because I had them in that thing, the baskets on the wall, and it was just too hard to dig through them. So this one I'm going to kind of try and sort by colors a little bit more. Make it a little bit easier to get to them. Some specialty stuff in here. So we've got some of the art yarn, some wool locks. This is my waxed linens and other stuff that I would use for binding. This is some more, I guess, wool, or I'm not sure what, but it looked really cool. So of course I had to have it, right? Here is some paper twine to do with my weaving class, and some other interesting paper fibers that I can either use for weaving, or I can put them into textile pieces, or I don't know, I can do whatever I want with them. Okay, so here's one stack. Top one is all my green embroidery flosses. I had so many of them that it was easier just to put them in their own container. And you have to, when you're doing any kind of organization, you have to think about the way your brain works. Like, for example, here's my paper tower. You have to think about the way your brain works. I've got all my paper out here that I use most often in the open because I have to be able to see what I have. And that's the same reason I had to switch over to these clear containers. I sort by color, so you will see, crochet cotton and embroidery flosses and the nicer pearl cottons are going to be all in the same tray because that's what the color is. And the only reason they might not be in here is because I have too big of a roll and they're going to be down in the larger tubs. And this would be my metallics. So I've got more greens, lots of greens as might be expected. I have a lot of greens. And for me, I just, like I said, I have them all sorted by colors. There's some more fun fibers and some woolly locks. So in here, I've got some wool strips I picked up on Etsy to play with. I thought those might be kind of nice to put in a textile piece for some couching or use in weaving. That's some silk bat, and there's some more silky stuff in here to play with, my metallic threads. And I do have a few extras of these, and I love it because here are the 2 different sizes that stack easily. When I'm working on a project, this is for the current project that I'm working on, and I put the colors in their little containers there, and then I can easily take them into the other room where I'm stitching. These also fit in my IKEA rolling carts really nicely. I have my cluster and small fiber thing set up in there. So if you want, I can do a video showing you how that setup goes. Almost forgot. So here is another stash of yarn. And I do have these sorted by type because I always would forget that I had these. And this is some of the silk yarn. And then in some cases, it's, let's like over here is banana yarn. And then this is that wonderful, just kind of wonderful loopy chenille kind of stuff. And I just didn't have a big enough space for them to go anyplace else. There you have it. That is how I store my threads. Doesn't matter to me to remember what type of thread they are or where they came from. I can go look at my receipts, but because I'm usually doing stuff very freeform, I'm not worried about reusing the same one each time. It's going to take me a long time to use all this stuff up. Go make art your way, just because it makes you happy.